I want to go to this. It's a very serious topic. Oregon State Police taser autistic child found wandering naked. Now, this is a situation. I just want to read this this quote right here. The girl's father also took issue to KDRV's reportage, which frequently referred to the girl as a young woman, and a juvenile. Now, this is a 11-year-old girl who was found wandering naked down the highway. A gentleman, I believe he was a taxi driver, pulled up beside her and said, "Hey, are you okay? Are you lost? Are you like what's going on here?" And the girl doesn't listen to him. She just keeps walking down the street. She turns out to be autistic and has communication issues. The gentleman, cab driver, calls the police. The police come up, and just like you see there, they tased the girl and then put her on the hood of a car like she's in some type of drug buster. They thought she was running guns or something. And yeah, that's the taxi driver right there giving his testimony. And you can go to Infowars.com and see that video for yourself. But we actually have the girl's father who's going to be joining us. His name is Aram. He's very emotional, and rightly so. You know, this guy has every right to be outraged. This is a horrible situation because we see the situations where they taser people for noncompliance, tase people who have seizures, and tase people who don't want to stand up or sit down or whatever the drill may be at the time, and then they just tase this person and think they did the right thing. So we're going to have him. He joins us right now via Skype. All right, thanks for joining us, Aram.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I know this is a very difficult time, and you got a lot of emotions, and I understand you've been talking to some other news agencies, so definitely want you at your best. You just let it fly. Tell us what happened. You receive, I'm guessing, a phone call telling you this has happened to your daughter.
Yeah, well, what happened is, well, obviously, it was the middle of the night. We were sleeping. The phone was ringing at 6:30 in the morning, and we get a call saying that we have your daughter down at the Rogue Valley Medical Center here in Southern Oregon. And we're like, what in the world? And so we run in the room. We're like, it's got to be a mistake. And sure enough, she's not there. So we're like, holy crap, you know. She's has escaped before, but never in this manner. It's typical of autistic kids, or certain autistic kids, to boogie. You know, they just like to get out and go for an adventure. And once they put their line of sight down a direction, they just keep going. So we're like, holy crap. So we go down there, and once we get her, we find out that the state police, in the process of apprehending her, had to tase her 2 times.
Oh, my gosh. Now, let's just talk about the tasering, okay? So your daughter, she's walking down the street. I saw the video with the cab driver, I believe it was. He was the witness to the thing. He says your daughter's walking down the street. She's not, you know, hindering anybody. You know, of course, it's a very unsafe situation for anybody to be, not just a child. But so the police approach your daughter. They issue 2 verbal commands, if I'm correct, and then fire on her with a taser. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct. But also, I mean, she was in a non-threatening manner. She was giggling. She wasn't in a, you know...
she wasn't aggressive.
She wasn't aggressive. She wasn't in some agitated state. She was giggling. And I mean, I can picture, I know my daughter, she was probably running down the road thinking it was the best thing in the world, you know. Mm-hmm. She was probably, the cab driver said she was giggling, and that's just typical. She just thinks this is really cool. So when the state police pull up, rather than approach the situation in trying to apprehend her, you know, physically, and it's obvious she has no weapons. It's obvious she's not a threat. They give her 2 verbal commands and then tase her. And then once they tased her, she obviously got excited. Right. And then they had to tase her again.
Is she on the ground? Does she go down with the first taser? She
went down. And then they tried to apprehend her. But once, you know, the taser comes out, she got scared. And a lot of autistic kids have a lot of strength. They have kind of an abnormal amount of strength, especially when you're excited. When you get hit with a taser, your adrenaline starts pumping. You know, prior to that, she was giggling. But then they had to physically apprehend her. They had to get other help. They did the normal, you know, like they're apprehending a dangerous criminal.
Right.
They slammed her head on the hood of the car, handcuffed her, threw her in the back of the police car when she would have gone voluntarily. I know my daughter, she loves cars. If anybody drives up to her, if she's walking along, she just hops right in the car because she loves cars. That's one of her characteristics, you know, of her particular view of
just her
whatever.
characteristic. Now, I want to ask you, because you have I'm pretty sure you can get a lot of people talking negatively about you and your family saying, well, what was this girl doing outside at this hour anyway, especially with no clothes on? How did this situation come about?
Well, it's not the first time. It's not the first time. She is very well known with the local police and emergency services, and also with the community. Everyone knows her. They know her characteristics, so it wasn't within the community. And also, she is involved in state custody with DHS or CPS, for more of on a services level rather than them trying to take her, which they do want to do. They want to put her in an institution eventually, I'm pretty sure.
Have they told you this before, that they want to take her, or is that your observation?
No, that's their intent eventually, I'm sure. And that was their intent a long time ago, but we provided a safe environment for her, and we've had her all her life. She's never actually been in a foster home or anything like that. But there has been various foster homes kind of salivating at getting a hold of her because they can get a lot of money for having them, or
of course,
having her in their care, because she's an extra special needs child, and they can get a lot of money if she goes in one of those foster homes.
Exactly. Now let's talk about her condition at the time. So she's out walking around and she happens to be nude. Is this something unusual for your daughter?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, that's absolutely normal. I know it sounds strange to a lot of people, but she has a sensory thing about her skin. She takes her clothes off all the time, and that's one of the problems with her being in an institution, is that
Now, that'd be a real problem if she was taken to an institution, a juvenile center, lo and behold, a jail. They're going to have this person who doesn't want to keep their clothes on, and that's going to be a real problem.
It's going to be a real problem, because most of these institutions that they keep these kids in are also, you got to worry about the staff, you got to worry about the other clients. It's a real problem. She's a lot better off at home than in an institution. I can guarantee you that, and a lot safer, even though these things might happen. But they're still going to have the same problems in an institution unless they lock her down completely and basically imprison her. So, and some people's argument as well, it's better to imprison her and save her life than let her have a life with her family and, have some risks. There's going to be risks with a child like this wherever they are. It's a struggle. We had an emergency meeting about it with the state, and the state has actually been pretty supportive. I'm not sure if it's because they don't know where to place her and they don't have the funding, or if it's because they're genuinely concerned. I'm hoping that it's over time there has been a community of people like her teachers and a community of people that have really kind of surrounded her and supported us. Yeah, and supported us against the state, because I've had experience with the state on this level of DHS. It's here in Oregon, but it's basically CPS.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kept her safe, is a lot of that community support and outreach, because this has happened before. And
but not to this extent where police were involved with tasers and so forth.
Yeah, not in the middle of the night and not naked.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Now, is your daughter at home with you right now? Is she back safe and sound? Is she in custody? Where is she at this moment?
She's at grandma's right now.
Okay, so she's at least in your custody. She's not of the state right now. Okay.
No, she's in our custody. Yep.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you, sir, this is obviously something that's very near and dear to your heart, something that you are very emotional about. Let's say, lo and behold, one of these incidents happens to happen again. What do you think would happen? Even if it's not on this level that the police were involved, you're saying that, they're itching to take your child away. Do you think they may try to take your child away?
Well, I think one of the problems, I think they would have done so if she wasn't such a unique case and they could find a place to put her. But I think eventually there are various institutions, and they have been expressed to us, that want her. And there are a few different facilities that, like I said, are kind of salivating to get a kid like this, because they can get so many resources for this child. And once they get her, of course, they're going to drug her up and basically imprison her.
Oh, yeah.
and get a lot of federal receipts and state receipts for having her. So to other parties, she's a kind of a gold mine, until for the rest of her life, basically.
Right. Right.
And facilities do not have the same patience and understanding that a family member has when she has an outburst. She is very strong. She does trapeze. She's very physically fit. And she does have outbursts where she'll scratch you or anything like that.
So then her physical safety becomes an issue. Even though she's a child and she may lash out, then she has to deal with a adult supervisor. And I know your time is short, and also this is very emotional for you. So we're going to wrap this thing up. And also, I believe we're going to have you on the Alex Jones radio show pretty soon. But I just want to ask you this question. What do you think about the local news coverage? Could I watch the clip where they were interviewing the cab driver, and they kept referring to your daughter as a young woman or a juvenile? Your daughter is 11 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, she's 11 years old, and that wasn't the first time. We'd already complained about it in when we read the first emergency services article in the paper, where they referred to her as a late teen and a woman. And we called up and said, look, this is not a woman. This is not only an 11-year-old kid, but a handicapped kid at that.
Right.
And they followed up with a news segment where they still called her a woman. Now, the last time I checked, an 11-year-old kid is not a woman, especially one that is handicapped.
Right.
Handicapped. So it seems to me like they want to call her a woman to somehow kind of create an atmosphere where it's okay to tase an 11-year-old kid.
No, 11-year-old is not a child. It's not even a teen. And they have the audacity to call her a young woman, I guess in some reports put it, a juvenile, so forth, but she's an 11-year-old little girl. She's a little girl. She's
a little girl, and mentally she's even littler. She is not a woman by any stretch of the imagination.
Exactly. Now, I know your time is short. Can you just give us your closing thoughts?
Well, I think that police training has really gotten to this level where they don't really care about who they're interacting with. They just react in whatever's the most convenient, easiest way to deal with whatever they're dealing with. And if that means tasing or shooting them with a gun, then that's just how they react. And police never are concerned with dealing with people as people. They look at everybody as a potential criminal that might hurt them, so it's better to shoot them first rather than kind of be diplomatic and deal with the situation. It's just oh, here's someone that's naked running down the road, tase. And if that didn't work, what, would they have shot her? Isn't the taser the primary barrier between shooting? So what's next? If that didn't work. Police tactics really need to get some additional training on dealing with handicapped kids, because there are thousands and thousands of kids, just like my daughter, across this country right now.
Right.
Autism is an epidemic.
Now, let me, I know I said that's the last question, but let me ask you this, because you'll get a lot of critics out there and say, well, they tased her, but he would have thrown a fit, have the cops come up and maybe grabbed her or put their hands on her. How do you think the situation should have been resolved?
She ain't like that. I mean, she's not afraid of strangers. She doesn't care about if you're a stranger or whatever. You can walk up, grab her hand, and get her in the car, no problem.
So you would have been perfectly fine if the officer, even if she was non-compliant verbally, which you say she has difficulties in that area, but the officer came, took her by the hand, maybe even gently nudged her by the shoulder, said, hey, get into this police car. Would you be fine with that scenario?
Well, absolutely. I'm happy that she's home safe, even though she was tased. I'm just happy that she's home safe. So it's kind of a mixed emotional thing. It's like, okay, well, if you had to tase her to save her life, okay, fine. I'm just glad she's home and she's safe, and I'm appreciative that the police were there. I mean, when you need the police and they're there, it's a wonderful thing. But some of their tactics and training really need some work. It's mixed emotions.
Right. Well, I got you, and I definitely appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you on the Alex Jones radio show very soon.
All right. Thanks, Shikari.
All right. Thank you, Aaron.